what has been kind of hidden is the gay casting couch. You know, the day I arrived in Hollywood, they told me when I was offered the job at Warner Brothers that you need to know this town is run by a homosexual mafia, and I believe.
Oh my gosh! All right, don't say that. We got to wrap it up. No, be careful what you say on Infowars. Even here, we don't want them coming after us. Thank you.
No fried bologna. That's a gym.
So here we have Pete Buttigieg repeating long over debunked lies about Hamas and October 7th. Pete Buttigieg tries once again to weigh in on the Israeli-Palestine. Within the first minute of a 10-minute discussion, he repeats the long debunked hoax that Hamas put babies in ovens. Let's watch.
So you have the word socialism scaring people, and then it sounds like a huge thing is Israel-Palestine.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on that stuff?
Well, I'm going to put my coffee down. There's so many things that have to be said. And what I've learned is if you don't say all of them, people think you're abandoning them. Mm-hmm. So here's some things in no particular order that I know. I know that there are unspeakable horrors taking place in Gaza. I know that those unspeakable horrors are something that was unleashed by a war that started with unspeakable horrors being perpetrated by Hamas on October 7th.
Well, I mean, that wasn't the beginning of the conflict.
Of course. I mean, this goes back to 47 and it goes back before 47. But this is exactly my point.
Right.
The moment you say anything about, the moment I talk about disgust at babies being put in ovens and people being flayed by Hamas on October 7th, somebody says, well, you're not talking about the history of the Nakba and what happened with the displacement of Palestinians. And the moment I express disgust at watching people in Gaza being starved, somebody says, well, you must be excusing what happened with Hamas. No.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah.
There is nothing intrinsically anti-Semitic about speaking up for the rights of Palestinians. At the same time, a lot of people I know who lie awake at night worried about their kids going to college or walking the streets, hear expressions of support for Palestinian civilian life and think about the fact that even though nothing about that makes you soft on anti-Semitism, the experience has been that those two things, expressions of support for Palestinian civilian life and expressions of anti-Semitism, have sometimes traveled together because there is, in fact, an explosion of anti-Semitism going on in this country.
Wow. Okay. So so it's okay for him to lie about Hamas. That's not considered anti-Semitic, even though Palestinians are Semitic. That's not so. Just to debunk that, the dead baby claim in oven in a speech to the Republican Jewish Coalition on the 28th of October, Eli Beer, founder of Israel's volunteer-based emergency medical services group United Hezbollah, claimed that Hamas had burned a baby alive in an oven. He attributed the claim to United Hezbollah volunteer. One of them, Asher Moskowitz, also publicly made the claim. It was repeated by journalist Dovid Ufun, commentator John Podhoretz, and others. In tweets seen over 10 million times, Israeli journalists and police found no evidence for this claim. Israeli journalists and police found no evidence of this claim, and a representative of Zaka, a first responder organization, said the claim was false. But there is Pete Buttigieg having to lie for his AIPAC handler, because believe me, he has one. So that is Pete Buttigieg lying for his AIPAC handler. Just so. Oh, by the way, Pete Buttigieg, when I brought back the debunked babies hoax, what you want to know? What if he brought it back? Here it is. Former U.S. Secretary of Transportation, $191,000 received from AIPAC. Isn't that nice? I think that's nice. He's got his wall kisser beard on as a protective layer, just so you know, because you don't know who he's been kissing that thing. Who's been kissing that wall ahead of you. That's all I'm saying. Actually, we kind of know who was ahead of him. Here is Netanyahu spreading genocidal propaganda hoaxes, including that Hamas burned babies alive on October 7th. No babies were burned on October 7th, as confirmed by Haaretz, the Israeli police, citing Israeli police. So Jewish newspaper, an Israeli newspaper, citing Israeli police records, debunk it. Pure genocidal blood libel. So let's watch.
And these monsters, they raped women, they beheaded men, they burnt babies alive.
And yes, and if the crime is that, They beheaded some of your babies. Let's say they did. I guess the only answer is to kill all of the Palestinians' babies, because that makes you so much better when you do it in bulk volume, kind of like a Trader Joe's coffee bin.
They kill parents in front of their children and children in front of their parents.
This sounds like
and these monsters.
Doesn't this sound like projection? Because that's what that is. That's exactly what Israel's doing. They're killing babies in front of their parents. They're killing parents in front of their babies. They're killing them at the same time. That's what's actually happening. Okay. It sounds more like he's reading from his day planner, doesn't it? Let's kill babies in front of their parents. Let's kill parents in front of their babies. Let's bomb hospitals. Let's blow up Christian churches. Here's Netanyahu saying that 2 babies in an attic were killed by Hamas on October 7th. These babies do not exist, as confirmed by Haaretz and Israeli police records. The entire story is fabricated, and the Congress applauded him for it. Let's listen.
They stand with people who came into the kibbutzim, into a home. The parents hid the children, the 2 babies in the attic, in a secret attic. They murder the families, the parents. They find the secret latch to the hidden attic, and then they murder the babies. These protesters stand with them. They should be ashamed of themselves.
Those are all lies. And that's your bought government standing up and cheering lies to justify a genocide. That's your bought government doing that. Okay. So the fact that he's projecting, because that's what that is, he's projecting everything that Israeli is doing. They're projecting it onto everyone else in his speech. And don't let his Hitler haircut throw you. Let your rage guide you blindly into oblivion. Or you can let your better angels guide you to see me this weekend in Sacramento, San Francisco, and then Irvine, and then Australia, and then Burbank, California the day after Thanksgiving. But there's more to this. According to a reporter for I-24 News, an Army commander told her that at least 40 babies had been killed, some of them beheaded. The channel said reports of the atrocities and the estimated numbers are based on testimonies by officers who removed bodies from Gaza border communities. It said these accounts were collected during the IDF spokesperson's unit tour for foreign correspondents 4 days into the war. The station added similar reports were repeated in testimonies by Zaka personnel. Zaka is the ultra-Orthodox Jewish organization whose members retrieve bodies after terror attacks. Our correspondents brought in the voices from the field. We interviewed the officers and reported from the scene surrounded by atrocities from the vicious attack. We always act to ensure the accuracy of the details and add clarifications and corrections. The report above was later quoted on social media, often referenced as dozens of beheaded babies, though sometimes it was burnt babies or hanged babies. For example, the Foreign Ministry published an account of Colonel Golan Vak from the Home Front Command, who said that in one house, he found the bodies of 8 burnt babies. The Twitter account of the Prime Minister's office also referred to the murder of infants and showed very graphic pictures. According to the tweet, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu showed the pictures to U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Last week, Ishay Cohen, a journalist for the ultra-Orthodox website, interviewed Lieutenant Colonel Yuran Buskila of the Israeli Defense Forces Gaza Division. Buskila talked about babies who had been hung on clotheslines. His remarks were cited by a host of Twitter personalities around the world. Cohen wrote that he was later informed that the story was inaccurate and deleted the post. Why would an army officer invent such a horrifying story? I was wrong, he added. According to sources including Israel's National Insurance Institute, kibbutz leaders, and the police, on October 7th, 1 baby was murdered, a 10-month-old Mila Cohen. She was killed with her father, Ohad, on a kibbutz buri. In another incident, On the morning of October 7th, a heavily pregnant Bedouin woman was on her way to Soroka Medical Center in Beersheba because her contractions had begun. Terrorists shot her in the stomach. Later, hospital staff delivered the baby girl, who died a few hours later. So again, so you got Pete Buttigieg just completely immediately, right off the bat, he just lies.
So you have the word socialism scaring people, and it sounds like a huge thing is Israel-Palestine.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on that stuff?
Well, I'm going to put my coffee down. There's so many things that have to be said. And what I've learned is if you don't say all of them, people think you're abandoning them. Mm-hmm. So here's some things in no particular order that I know. I know that there are unspeakable horrors taking place in Gaza. I know that those unspeakable horrors are something that was unleashed by a war that started with unspeakable horrors being perpetrated by Hamas on October 7th.
Well, I mean, that wasn't the beginning of the conflict.
Of course. I mean, this goes back to 47 and it goes back before 47. But this is exactly my point. Right. The moment you say anything about, the moment I talk about disgust at babies being put in ovens and people being flayed by Hamas on October 7th, somebody says, well, you're not talking about the history of the Nakba.
You know what someone should say is that you're a liar and you're a propagandist for AIPAC and Israel and Zionism. That's what someone should say, because that's what he is. That's what that's the Democrat star politician. Their up and comer is this guy who 3 years after the conflict started, is it 3 years? Is it 2 years? I don't know. He's still repeating, debunked by Israeli police and Israeli newspapers, a lie that gets people on board for a genocide. That's your winner. Anyway, okay, over to that's it for me for today. Over to Steph.
Okay, thank you, Jimmy. Let's see this. Wikipedia is Zionist intelligence propaganda. No fried baloney. All right, let me see what else I have here. Looking over here. All right, one more thing. Are you coming to our shoes? And remember, resist much, obey little. Let me look. Hold on. Let me see here. I haven't had any of my Rockfin fans lately. Where are my Rockfin girls and boys? All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. When we strive to become better than we are, everything around us becomes better too. Good luck on that one. Paulo Coelho. All right, we'll see you on Monday or this weekend. Bye.